Plaintiff Van Ross grew up in the projects in Chicago, then went on to college and was involved in the civil rights movement. Van now lives in the same apartment complex as the defendant, and he's suing because the defendant failed to pay for a grill and then threatened him. Defendant Noel Davis says he and Van were always civil to each other until the incident in question. Noel claims Van confronted him in a hostile manner about his children and then called the police. So he's countersuing for harassment and defamation.
Start with you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Van Ross. I'm originally from Chicago. Grew up in Ida B. Wells, in fact. And to give you, are you asking?
Ida B. Wells, the housing project?
The housing project. We were the second tenants in Ida B. Wells. I'm a senior citizen, you know.
How old are you?
73.
Look good for 73.
Well, my parents died very early. My father died in 55. My mother died in 57.
How old were you?
15 and 17. So with that as a backdrop, I graduated from high school, went to college, and got involved in the civil rights movement.
Where did you go to college?
Howard University, University of Illinois, Illinois Institute of Technology.
Were you part of the desegregation movement that the young people were doing?
Yes, going through the 60s. Actually, I moved out to LA. Coming back from LA, I stopped off in Albuquerque. They wouldn't serve me there. In fact, the guy that I was riding with was an Englishman, and he said...
With whom?
Was an Englishman. And he said, let's get the hell out of here. So I said, okay,
so you
fine.
all left, you're supposed to stay there. That's part of the protest. You go, you sit at the counter, and they say, we're not serving you, get out, and you just sit there.
Well, that was
You had the Englishman with you. He said the civil rights is your deal. He said, let's get out of here.
Well, we went on down the road to Oklahoma City, and then in that regards, the guy said, we will sell you a sandwich, but you got to eat it out back. So, in coming back to Chicago, I decided to, well, I was going to the University of Heidelberg, Germany, to the School of Architecture. Ended up getting recruited in the civil rights movement by a couple of buddies in New York. I was able to see a lot of signs say colored only, white only.
Dealt with all the racism, then you got to come home and a young black man gives you harassment, huh? So you say.
Well, that's the generation that's coming up now. I've seen several.
Not all of them. Barack Obama's a part of that generation too. So am I.
Well, I used to live.
So not all of us.
Lived near Obama, and I went to. Actually, I used to work at the water purification plant for about 9 years.
And we thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your sacrifice. A lot of young people don't realize that you all sacrifice, your generation. Sacrifice a lot. Sit at those lunch counters, got spit on.
Killed, burned, buried.
Yeah.
I remember a lady named Victoria that was on the bus rats. In fact, I was actually recruited from the bus rats in Chicago. And in fact, I met Viola. Viola.
From Ann Arbor?
Yeah. She was from Michigan.
Yeah, Ann Arbor, Michigan. All right. Know a little bit about that, don't you?
You sure do.
Give me some background on this before we get to the grill and the harassment he's alleging.
Well, I met Mr. Ross. He was a tenant downstairs in a studio apartment. That's how I first met him. Didn't know too much about him, and he gave me a few stories. We talked a few times, but it was just a handful of times. He stayed in his area, I stayed in mine. So that's pretty much how we met.
How long has that been?
2 or 3 months total.
All right. How did you all get along?
I mean, pretty well for the most part. I mean, when I seen him, I spoke, he spoke. We talked every once in a while, but
so
it was
only
short.
This problem we're adjudicating today?
That's it.
All right. Sir, tell me what happened.
Well, this sort of precedes the problem about the grill. First of all, the garbage. Now, the landlord did not assign me to go taking out the garbage or anything else. Well, I had gotten Mr. Davis to, I had lost my vacuum cleaner out of the back of the truck in moving. So in moving, I asked him to give me a lift, came back home. Then he started getting into the rebuttal about how much rent I was paying and I should be, I told him I'm not concerned about the garbage. So he went into his loud outburst about, how much rent I was paying, and I told him I'm not going to worry about it and walked away from him. That was the first incident. The second incident was where the neighbor across the street had his grandson mowing the lawn. So I asked him to mow the lawn. He said he'd charge us $30. Gave him 20, he never gave me the $5 back. So we had two things up in the air. The grill I talked to him about, I told him, I would sell him the grill. It was in a new box. It was a brand new grill. He said that I would pay you that following Friday, which I would expected the money then. So I never heard from him about the grill nor the $5 that preceded that. So as I said, with this as a backdrop, the incident, there was a threatening incident made by him to me because his kids was running all around the neighborhood and it was tearing up the neighborhood.
Threaten you about what exactly?
Well, actually what had happened is my breaker, the breaker on the switch blew. So I went out there and was talking to him about it. He went off on me about threatening, well, you're talking about my sons. I said, well, then he said,
what was his threat?
His threat was, I'll beat your punk ass. I'll knock you.
Then what'd you do?
I just walked away.
Okay.
Yeah, and called the police the following day.
Do you have a police report?
Yes, I do.
All right, there we go. Sir, what do you want to tell me about this?
I heard a big bang at the door. So I go to the door, I'm like, what's going on? He was like, you need to tell your kids to calm down. I'm like, okay, hold on. You're being really irate. And the kids are standing there looking like, what did we do? And so I told him I will talk to the kids, but you're getting kind of hostile. You need to back away from my door right now. So he's still rumbling off at the mouth. I told him, hey, I already told you once that I will talk to the kids, but you need to back. Get away from my door. Go to your own space.
Tell me about the grill.
And the grill, the time that he gave me the grill as a gift when he was moving. So
true.
I was in the garage working on my motorcycle. I see him pull up with a U-Haul. Basically, I help him move. Me and him got to talk about food, Chicago, whatever, just a brief little thing. As a token, he said he gave me the grill because he had a whole bunch of stuff. He had just moved from a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom unit to a studio. So he was overwhelmed with all this stuff.
So he gave you the grill,
yes.
Why would I
even
give
though
him
he
the grill?
believed.
No.
I got common sense.
I'm sorry.
I know you think this generation was not like
I agree with you. I agree with you.
But you see, I just showed off my civil rights knowledge.
Yeah, I agree.
So this generation isn't that bad after all, right?
Well,
See that? I know. See that?
if you're walking around expecting someone to give you something,
Yeah,
I
but
think it is pretty bad.
But you said this generation, so hopefully me and others do get credit for being part of this generation and not doing some of the things that you believe most of us do. Your counterclaim for harassment and defamation is for what?
It was from the letters that basically kept coming under my door. When I
What
come
did he
home
do?
from work, I'll look under there. There's 2 access doors. There's my front door and an access door that we share the same laundry room that you have to come upstairs. He was putting notes stating for the $50 for a grill that I never agreed to buy in the first place. Then he called the police and made a false report against me that I threatened him, which didn't happen.
Well, sir, you came close to telling me that a minute ago when you said, I've told you once, if you don't do this, if you don't, you just said.
Well, he was hostile at the door in front of the kids.
Well,
so I
don't
just
say
want
you
him to walk
didn't when
away
you
from the
just
door.
told me you did.
Okay.
So you're essentially admitting that because the man wouldn't walk away from your door, that you effectively threatened him. Now, I don't know if you use these exact terms, but you're admitting, sir, that you threatened the man if he didn't walk away from your door.
I just told him to leave my front door.
I understand. No, sir. I heard what you said earlier.
Okay.
You said, I'm telling you one more time. All that is inferred as a threat, sir. I'm going to grant you your judgment. $1,550. I believe everything you've told me about this gentleman, and his claim for you putting notes under the door is dismissed. Have a good day.
Thank you. I have no intentions of seeing them, talking to them, or, going anywhere with them.
Continue doing what I do, raise my kids, be a good father. That's what I do.